Good evening, esteemed colleagues, distinguished professionals on this call. Well, welcome to the Oasis today. I hope our day was not too tiring. So, as our custom is, we will just go straight into the business of the day. We have in our midst this evening a distinguished professional in the HR space. Coincidentally, we went to the same tertiary institution. We served in the same union. While he rose to become the #1 student union leader in the parliamentary setup of the school, we went our way to join the National Association of Nigerian Students and became the public relations officer for the entire Southwest. We were fortunate again to meet at CIPM, where he also served in several capacities, both at the national level and at the branch level. And today he's an esteemed fellow of the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management of Nigeria, a distinguished and accomplished HR practitioner, the Chief Operating Officer for Sage Halt Consulting Limited. Distinguished colleagues, esteemed professionals on this call, please let's put our digital hands together as we welcome Mr. Muslihu Afisi, FCIPM, to lead us in the next 45 minutes. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, my branch chair. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for having me on this call. I don't know if I can go straight.
Thank you very much. So, yes, you can just go straight into the business of the day. And we will, yes, we will have you for the next 45 minutes thereabout, so we can accommodate questions before we also close. Over to you, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
No, please,
okay. Thank you very much.
Just hold on. Let me mute everybody and make it impossible for people to unmute themselves. So you can now unmute and shoot.
Okay. Thank you very much, my branch chair, Engineer Olabode Badiru. Thank you very much for the intro. And once again, thank you for this opportunity to make this presentation, share some insights with professional colleagues on this call. Without wasting our time, the topic for today's presentation is psychological safety in the workplace and its impact on talent engagement and retention. As we know, talent engagement and talent retention remain on the front burner of the activities, the function arresting the attention of HR professionals across sectors and industries. So whatever it is that we have to do, we have to learn, we have to know and put to practice to be able to get our talents engaged, to get them retained in the business, so that as businesses, we will be able to continue not only to meet our bottom lines, but of course, to have competitive advantage in the space where we operate. And this is where psychological safety comes to play, because it is indeed becoming more challenging to get talents retained in our different sectors, and companies. So when we say psychological safety, what exactly do we mean? First of all, I want us to break down the topic of today's presentation, psychological safety. What is psychology itself? Psychology has been defined by psychologists to mean the scientific study of the human mind and human behavior. That is, studies that is based on facts, studies that is based on research, study that is based on empirical evidence. So such study that is saddled with the responsibility of getting to know the true nature of human mind, to know the true nature of the human behavior, and be able to predict that behavior. That is what is known as psychology. Scientific study of the human mind and human behavior. So psychologists are actively involved in studying and understanding mental processes, human mental processes, human brain functions, and of course, human behavior. All the activities that are related to understanding how human beings think, how they assimilate, how they understand issues, the functionalities of human brain, and of course, the human behavior. This is what psychology is saddled with, and this is what psychologists do. Then, that is on the one side. Then on the other side, psychological safety. What is safety? We all know safety. But for the purpose of this presentation, safety refers to the state of being protected from harm, from injuries, from danger. It includes measures taken to prevent injury, not only in the workplace, but in our domestic lives, in our personal lives. Prevent injuries, minimize risk, and maintain complete and total well-being. That is safety. So when we now bring the two major concepts together, psychological safety, what does it mean? Psychological safety, first of all, we must understand, is a theory of human interaction in the workplace, at home, the domestic areas of our life. So psychological safety as a theory of human interaction refers to the environment in which team members feel safe to express their opinions. They feel safe to take risk and address problems without fear of negative consequences. So psychological safety in the workplace refers to human interaction in an environment where they feel safe to express their various shades of opinion, to take calculated risk, and address problems without fear of negative consequences. This is what is referred to as psychological safety in the workplace. So psychological safety allows team members in a particular work environment to be themselves, to openly discuss their mistakes among colleagues and even superiors, of course, because such mistakes were not deliberately committed. They were committed in the process of carrying out their duties and responsibilities. So they openly discuss their mistakes. They seek help. They trust that they are valued and appreciated, and that those mistakes that are committed in the course of their duties and responsibilities serve as learning curves for them, as learning opportunities, learning and development opportunities for them. So that is what we mean by psychological safety. And of course, research has revealed that money cannot compensate for a lack of psychological safety in the workplace. Any work environment where psychological safety is absent, in other words, where people do not feel safe to be themselves, to express their opinion that is based on their experiences, on their training, on their exposure and enlightenment, where they don't feel safe to express their personal opinions, to take calculated risk, to own up to their mistakes without fear of negative consequences, then no amount of monetary compensation can compensate for what will become of such an environment. That is a sense of belonging, freedom to speak up, opportunity to learn through mistakes, through honest mistakes, to freely and genuinely contribute to the bottom line. Such organizations will not have the opportunity to have the much desired competitive advantage where employees feel comfortable enough to create and innovate. So the key concepts in this definition of psychological safety we have just discussed is that psychological safety is a condition in which employees feel included when we talk about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, where psychological safety is established and practiced. Employees in such an environment, they feel included. When we talk about inclusion, inclusion will be at play in such an environment. They feel safe to learn through the mistakes they honestly committed. They feel comfortable to contribute in such a work environment. And number 4, they feel safe to challenge with the status quo. All of these 4 attributes, they do it without fear of being embarrassed, without fear of being marginalized, and without fear of being punished in some way. Like most of us must have, or some of us must have experienced in the course of our professional life, in some work environments, you have to say and do what the leadership want to hear and what they want to see, not what is necessarily right, not what is necessarily factual, what is based on facts. And that is what we are saying now, is that any work environment where employees do not feel included, do not feel safe to learn, do not feel safe to contribute, and safe to challenge the status quo without fear of being embarrassed, marginalized, or punished in any way, then psychological safety is absent in such an environment, and money cannot compensate for the lack of such in that an environment. Then the question is asked, why is psychological safety so important? Psychological safety in any work environment is important because of what research has shown us. There is a research institute, Niagara Institute. They carry out a research about the effect of psychological safety in the work environment, and they came up with this result. The research was conducted in a number of years, collecting data across sectors and industry and across levels of staff membership. And the result shows that where psychological safety is present and practiced and established, there is 70% less stress. Less stress is drastically reduced in such an environment. Why? Because what accounts for the chunk percentage, the larger percentage of what professionals go through is mental stress. And if you work in an environment where you feel safe to express your opinion, to take calculated risk, to address problems without fear of negative consequences, mental stress is drastically reduced, if not completely eliminated for such a professional. So Niagara Institute, from the research they conducted, they found out that where psychological safety is established and practiced, there is 74% less stress and 50% more productivity. That is, people contribute more. In any environment where there is inclusion, where employees feel included, they discriminated against on the basis of their color, their grade, their background, or their worth. They're able to contribute more because they are engaged, because they have an experience, employee experience, that money cannot compensate for its absence. So productivity is improved by 50%. In fact, higher performance is recorded in multiple folds. It's multiplied by 5, the kind of higher performance that is recorded. And employee engagement rises by 76%, while life satisfaction increased by 29%, and labor turnover is reduced by 27%, while collaboration among employees also rises by 57%. This is the result of the environment where psychological safety is established and practiced, as against where psychological safety is absent. And this is why psychological safety is so important in any work environment that plans to engage its talents and retain them. Then what are the fundamentals of psychological safety? 1, risk-taking. Any work environment, enterprising concern that wants to establish and practice psychological safety, number 1, the first fundamental is that such environment should be designed, the work culture, the corporate culture should be such that employees will be free to take calculated risk. Encourage appropriate risk and open discussions. Risk taking, that is number 1. That is, you are encouraged, you are empowered to take calculated risk, believing that even when mistakes and errors are committed, they are committed because people are making contributions to the bottom line. They are making contributions in their R&D, research and development. They are designing new products, bringing new, causing disruption, just like technology has done. And that is this is partly what is responsible for technology. Before a technological gadget is introduced to the market, the people behind such technological disruption must have worked and practiced in an environment where risk-taking is not only allowed, but promoted. Because that is the only way to encourage innovation and bring about competitive edge in the niche where they operate in the market. Number 2, mistake acceptance. Such an environment should foster a culture where mistakes are seen as learning opportunities. Honest and genuine mistakes that is committed in the process of the professional carrying out the duties and responsibilities of his job, with a view to bringing about a better approach to work, a simpler approach to work, introducing a new design to the market, new product to the market. Because if mistakes are not allowed, there is no way innovation can be brought about. There is no way new products can be introduced to market. In the process of introducing new products, several tens and scores of errors and mistakes must have been committed. And we remember Isaac Newton, the founder of Bob, when he said before he eventually got how to make a bulb, he tried about 1,000 times and he didn't get it. But the scores of errors and mistakes he committed did not dissuade him from continuing to attempt. So he continued to attempt. He continued to make attempts until he eventually got it right. And that is why we're told that mistakes and sometimes failure is an integral part of success. In fact, if you have not failed, you have not recorded genuine success. Just like research have shown, it's actually better to fail multiple times at the beginning and the middle of your career and learn and to know how not to do that particular area, that particular product, that particular invention or innovation that you have brought, that you are trying to introduce and bring into the market. Because if anybody who fails at the end of this career, such failure usually will consume that person. So failure or mistake is part of learning process. So any environment, any work culture, corporate culture that makes effort to establish and practice psychological safety, such an environment must accept mistake as learning opportunities. Problem addressing. Team members should feel comfortable bringing up tough issues. Feedback and help seeking. Encourage seeking feedback and asking for help. Feedback is crucial in performance management. It must be regular. It must be objective. And like I always tell people, especially superiors and supervisors, when you give feedback, allow your direct reports, the employee that is being given feedback, to respond. Let him feel comfortable to respond, because it is when he feels comfortable to respond that he will genuinely tell you the challenge he has been faced with in the course of carrying out his duties and responsibilities. You can then commit yourself to joining hands with him to address that particular issue that is stopping him or serving as a barrier from achieving his targets and performance objectives. Feedback is critical. Trust. Build trust that no one is out to harm others. There should be trust that in the course of my duties, in the course of carrying out the contents of my job role, I will be truly supported. And if I commit genuine mistakes, it will be seen as learning process. I would have also learned how not to do that particular thing, that particular activity, how not to carry it out. It is very, very important. Belongingness, there must be inclusion in any work environment where psychological safety is practiced. Leadership, a culture of learning and innovation. Anonymous survey, assess your team's psychological safety through anonymous surveys. It is when we carry out survey that we actually feel the pulse of the employees. I know and truly know what obtains in the workplace where we are trying to establish and promote psychological safety. Then what is the essence of psychological safety? There are some key questions here. One, have you ever been dropped in a completely foreign environment? Were you suspicious of the natives? What bias or prejudice did you bring? Sometimes you find yourself in a work environment where perhaps you are the least qualified. Everybody parades credentials that is superior than your own. In such an environment, how does such an environment make you feel? Or you are working among team members that are expatriates. You find yourself on a team where you have 2 or 3 expatriates or more. Or you have to work with executive directors. You have presentations to make to a board. How do you feel in such an environment? An environment where you just find yourself, you are new in that environment, or you are just promoted to a senior management role. People you have always seen at the very top, you just find yourself in their midst. How do you feel? Were you suspicious of their trust? What bias or prejudice did you bring? Or is it you that is biased against them? Have you ever been in a position of power? Have you ever been in a position of no power? Did having power or not having power change your behavior? As a professional, as a supervisor, as the HOD, as the team lead, what is your attitude when you assume that role of influence? How did you wield the authority that the organization put in your hands, in your care? Was there any change in the behavior of somebody who was just promoted to a leadership role? These are the questions that psychological safety tend to answer. Have you ever been a part of an organization that was dominated by fear? Maybe the MD, the director, whatever it is whatever he wants to hear that people must say. God helps you if you say something that he doesn't want to hear. It doesn't matter whether what he wants to hear is right or wrong. How did you respond? How did other people respond to an executive who expects a particular way in the scheme of things in that particular work culture? He expects a particular response. So if people did not respond in the way he expected, what happens? How did people feel? The presence of fear in an organization is the first sign of weak leadership. And that is the principle for all these questions. Any work environment where people do not feel secured to be themselves, where people do not feel safe, for whatever reasons, they are not safe to contribute, they are not safe to express personal opinions, they are not safe to present issues on facts and figures. They will rather present those issues in the light of what the executive wants to hear. Such an environment, there will be palpable fear all over. Some people talk about autocratic leadership style or management style. One of the shortfall of autocratic management or leadership style is that people are not allowed to be themselves. There's coercion. People are coerced to act, to behave in a particular way. So where such obtains, there will be palpable fear in the atmosphere in such an environment. And presence of fear in any environment, in any organization, whether public or private, that is the first sign of weak leadership. I've never met an infallible human. No man is infallible. Nor have I met a perfect parent, teacher, or coach. Each one of us is a work in progress, an apprentice to greatness. And at some point, we've all been broken, damaged, wounded, and guilty, and yet that we still possess, there is still that amazing gifts in all of us. The number of times some of us have recorded failures in the past, committed errors, still did not stop us from attaining greatness, from getting to where we are today. I usually tell people that when I was writing CIPM professional exams, I failed like 7 times. I cannot remember any level of CIPM exams that I did not write like 2 times. Some of those levels I wrote it 3 times. And yet, look at me today. I have become a fellow since 2021. So when people committed errors and mistakes and blunders, it should not indicate the end of their career. It is when people committed the same error several times, even after they have been tutored, they have been trained. You take them through IPP, you train them through IDP, and if all that fail, then you can ease them out. But ordinarily, people should feel safe to learn. They should feel safe to contribute. They should feel safe to be themselves in any work environment without fear of any undue negative consequences. Because the truth is, we are all shaped by one another. And we should always remember, people who change jobs, they do not change jobs because of the content of their job roles. They change jobs because of the quality of the character of their superiors. Then, the essence of, now I want to discuss the essence of psychological safety. The essence of psychological safety is for each one of us, especially those of us who are professionals, senior staff, middle-level managers, senior managers, to crack ourselves open and look inside. Because we have come to a time where we have to summon courage to conduct some sort of searching, fearless personal inventory. And if you happen to lead a family, a team, an organization, perhaps we may have to conduct an institutional examination of conscience. There are 4 questions to ask ourselves. First, do you truly believe that all men and women are created equal? Do you accept others and welcome them into your society, your organization, your team, your level, your cadre, simply because they possess flesh and blood? They possess the credentials, the job experience that is required to get to that position. Yet, even if their personal view, their religious views, their psychological views, their political views, and even sometimes their sports affiliations differ from your own, do you still accept them to get to the grade, the position that they truly deserve and merit, even when their religious views, their cultural views, and sometimes their political views and sports affiliation differs markedly from your own? That is the question you ask yourself. To know whether, as an individual, as a professional, you practice some bits of psychological safety, and for us to know whether people are actually safe around you. The second question, without bias or discrimination, do you encourage others to learn and grow? Because some of us, perhaps on this call, we have people under us, maybe not even in the workplace, maybe at home, your husband, your wife, your children, your cousins, your junior ones. Even at home, outside the workplace, when people commit mistakes, For mothers, some mothers are fond of shouting their children down. Some mothers do not see mistakes from their children as learning opportunities. And when you shout down your children, your children, in a number of period, for a period of time, months, years, you are directly and indirectly creating an impact on that child. You are indirectly killing a self-confidence. Do you encourage people around you to learn and grow? Do you support them in that process, even when they lack confidence and make mistakes? The third question, do you grant others maximum autonomy to contribute in their own way as they demonstrate their ability to deliver results? Some of us will micromanage. We don't give our subordinates our direct reports. We don't give them the room to be themselves, to do it. We don't even allow them to do it better. Some people will say, God help you if you are better than your boss. We don't give our direct reports opportunity to demonstrate their ability to deliver results, sometimes better than we could have done, that we may have done. As a professional, how do you behave? People who work with you, do they have free hand to contribute to the bottom line? Or do you micromanage them? Number 4, do you consistently invite others to challenge the status quo in order to make this better? Like I said, if you do not challenge the status quo, there is no way we can bring about innovation. There is no way. Look at the technological disruption, the disruption technology has brought to our life across the globe. It is because those people who brought about the disruption, their work environment supported them and protected them to challenge the status quo. So if we appreciate those disruptions brought about by technology, why don't we do the same thing in our own little corner? In our own area of influence? Are you personally prepared to be wrong based on the humility and learning mindset you have developed? Some of us are unable to accept when we are wrong, especially when our subordinates seem to have got it right. Some people cannot learn from their subordinates. These 4 questions align with the 4 stages of psychological safety. Psychological safety, it will has 4 levels. We will shortly get to those levels, and these are the questions that each of those levels addresses. Leadership is stewardship, like you all know. And one of the major responsibilities of leadership is to protect people, especially in the workplace, to protect people, not only physically, but also psychologically. Labor law is replete with provisions where employees should be protected, safety, health, safety, and environment. It is the responsibility of leadership to ensure that anybody who works in that environment remains healthy, remains safe, and that the environment is fit for continued human existence, including non-humans like birds, like fish. But most times, when leadership models is being discussed, most times, almost all of us, we lose sight of the psychological responsibility of leadership. Most times. And leadership duty and responsibility is not complete without the psychological aspect of it. So the absence of physical safety can bring about injury or even death, permanent disability. But the absence of psychological safety, as one of the responsibilities of leadership, can inflict devastating emotional wounds. It can neutralize performance. It can demoralize talents in any work environment. It can kill potentials and create an individual's sense of self-worth. The implication is that organizations that lack psychological safety and compete in highly dynamic markets are galloping their way to extinction. No matter what we do in the workplace, no matter how excellent our result might be, if we do not give adequate consideration to psychological safety, we are on our way not only to losing our position in the marketplace, losing our market share. We lose our market share, we lose our position in the market, and we might actually be on our way out of business. Because the duty of leadership is not restricted to physicals. It also includes psychological safety. The other thing to learn is that where psychological safety is absent, fear will be present. Psychophancy will be present. It will be present. High service will be plenty. And where fear is present, fear is an enemy of genuine progress and success in any work environment. Because fear freezes initiative. It ties up creativity. It yields compliance instead of commitment and represses what would otherwise be an explosion of innovation. There cannot be innovation where fear is present. Now, let me quickly go to the impact of psychological safety on talent engagement. Where psychological safety is present, that is where people feel included, people who are not excluded on the account of any superficial consideration. Where people feel safe to learn, people are not crucified for the failures and errors they committed in the course of their work. Where people feel safe to contribute genuinely and meaningfully to the bottom line, using their talents, their trainings, their exposure, and where people feel safe to challenge the status quo. What do we have? In such an environment, there is always increased creativity. Employees are more likely to take a risk and share innovative ideas when they feel psychologically safe. This is an impact on talent engagement. So talents are engaged because they feel safe. They take calculated risk and share innovative ideas because they know that even when the ideas did not work, they will not be crucified. It will have served as a learning curve for everybody that is involved. Number two, I will just share 4 impacts of psychological safety on talent engagement. The second one is stronger collaboration. Where there is psychological safety, there is always a culture that fosters teamwork, because each member of the team is appreciated for the contribution to the team projects, not because of where he or she comes from, not because of the religion he or she belongs to, or the political party, or the family background, or the state of origin, no, but the contribution that he or she can make to bear on the team project. So there is stronger collaboration. Communication is enhanced because it leads to connection. Because sometimes you communicate, you don't connect. And the essence of communication is to connect, not only with every member of the team, but to the big picture of the project. of the organization. And there is always a shared sense of purpose, because everybody's contribution, no matter how little, everybody's contribution to the big picture is not only recognized, but also appreciated and rewarded. And any small success that is recorded is always celebrated. So collaboration is always very strong. Where psychological safety is present, there is always higher motivation. Employees feel safe. Employees who feel safe and supported are usually and always more engaged, because they feel protected, because they know that somebody always gets their back. They are committed. They are motivated to succeed. There is higher motivation. There is another impact on talent engagement and retention. Then there is also better problem solving. Psychological safety, where it is present, there is always diverse perspectives to issues. It is not that you have to queue behind the executive. No, all perspectives to issues are recognized and genuinely and objectively appraised and looked into. Open dialogue. There is open dialogue, which leads to more effective problem solving and decision making. These are 4 proven impacts of psychological safety on talent engagement. Then let us look at impact of psychological safety on talent retention. Number 1, trust and loyalty. Employees who feel psychologically safe are more likely to trust their leaders and feel loyal to the organization, which is true. It is even natural, it is seamless. When people feel that their interest is genuinely protected, not lip service, that the organization is truly interested in their well-being, in their development, in their career progression, employees will naturally and seamlessly trust such an environment. They will trust their leaders and they will feel loyal. They will be willing to go extra mile for the organization. So as a result, it leads to the second one, reduced turnover. They wouldn't want to go to an environment where they will not feel safe to learn. They will not feel safe and secure to contribute, where there is no inclusion. So there is reduced turnover. A culture of psychological safety can help retain top talent by fostering a sense of belonging and job satisfaction. The third one on talent retention, career development. Employees feel empowered to take on new challenges and pursue professional growth opportunities where psychological safety is practiced. In conclusion, in building a culture of psychological safety, number 1, I recommend 3 steps. Number 1, commitment from leadership. Leaders must prioritize and model psychological safety to create a lasting impact. Because we know that organizational culture, the tone for organizational culture is always set by leadership. Without prejudice to whatever has been documented as organizational shared values, whatever the leaders say and do goes a long way in setting the tone for any corporate culture. So when leaders prioritize and model psychological safety, it helps to create a lasting impact. And it brings about all these points that we have discussed. So it is when leaders are committed to psychological safety that it can truly be established, brought about, and practiced. Then secondly, ongoing dialogue. Open and transparent communication is key to maintaining a psychologically safe workplace. Communication must be open. It must be transparent. It must be honest, genuine, and sincere. We shouldn't hide under any guise to say something and do something else, especially as leaders, not only in the work environment, but also in the home front. As parents, we must set examples for our children. Whatever we do, most times, children may not listen to what you say, but be rest assured that they are looking at you. They are recording your actions, your utterances, and putting them in their memory. And by the time they start playing it back to you, you'll be surprised. The last one, continuous improvement. Leaders should regularly assess, evaluate, and refine strategies to foster a culture of psychological safety in the work environment. Whatever strategy, whatever techniques that we are going to adopt, whether at global company level, at departmental level, or team level, we should ensure that such strategies and techniques align with the essentials and fundamentals of psychological safety. Because that is only when we can bring about an environment where there is inclusion, where there is safety to learn, where people are safe to contribute and safe to challenge the status quo. Thank you very much for this opportunity to make this presentation. Thank you, my chairman, sir.
This cannot be a free webinar. Every one of us on this call, I'll give you an account number. You must pay in dollars, because this is indeed a master class. No dull moment from the beginning to the end. There is no no kalulu. Wow. This is just a wow. Thank you very much, sir. You are indeed a sage.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for all you have delivered. This is a well-prepared lecture. A well-prepared lecture. And we can't thank you enough. Now, we will open the floor for questions and contributions. Yeah. Please, if you have questions or contributions, or perhaps you want to say something to our facilitator, you can just raise your digital hand and we will recognize you, and then you can ask your question or make your contribution. Do we have anyone who wants to ask questions or make contributions? Okay, I hope there are no questions in the chat room.
Okay.
Okay, Divine Ayalaja. Okay, maybe I should just okay, let me make it possible for people to unmute themselves. Okay, Divine Ayalaja, you start first, and then I will recognize. Oh, our leader, one of our esteemed past chairmen, is on this call, Olabode Balogun. Thank you very much. I'll come to you. SL Geneota, I'll come to you. The first person I want to recognize is Divine Ayalaja. Okay, are you clapping or you are raising your hand to ask questions? Thank you, Mr. Otto Patrick. Of course, you know our person now. There's never a dull moment with Mr. Muslihu Afisi. Okay, you were raising your hand. Okay, please unmute and ask your question. Divine Ayalaja, unmute and ask your questions or make your contributions. Okay, while he's still working on his mic, I think we can recognize Mr. Olabode Balogun.
Yeah. Are you with me? Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Chairman.
Thank you very
Yes,
much.
this is
God
a
bless you, sir.
very good lecture. I want you to continue to keep it up there. That is Mr. Afisu, Fis. He has
Thank
done
you,
very
sir.
well. Yes.
Thank you,
My
sir.
question regards to what you have been saying, safety, the psychological safety that you are talking about
Yes,
is
sir.
for all, is for everyone. I don't think it's peculiar to the employer, neither the employee alone. Do you agree with this?
Absolutely. Absolutely, my chair.
Okay. If that would be the case, then how do we manage the system when it comes to the issue of safety, leaving it to the leaders alone?
Are you done? Can I respond, or there are other questions?
So that's the first one.
Okay.
Then the second one, an area where the safety is not there, the psychological safety is not there, where it's not properly maintained in an organization, just like what we have seen in recent time now with people that that move out, the Jackpot syndrome and what have you there. Because if the environment is volatile and people are not being appreciated, then for those people, how do you retain these people when the environment is volatile? It's not giving room for people to make contributions, to give advice, and all of that. If these things are not in existence, how do you address those people that want to leave? Thank you.
I did not hear the second question. The voice was not audible at some point.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, I'm saying that in an environment where the environment is volatile, where it's
yes.
not, where the employer, the leaders are not giving room for the young one to come up there to make their contributions and what have you, when it comes to psychological safety, you find out that when that environment is volatile, where contributions are not being appreciated, this set of people will want to leave. How do you retain, especially for the talented ones? What will you do to address those ones so that they can stay in that kind of environment?
Thank you very much, Mr. Falogun. I don't know whether I should also take other questions so that I can respond to all of them together, or whether I should respond to them individually. My branch chair, what's the culture, please? What's the practice?
If I don't know, I think you can respond to them one by one. Just respond
Okay.
to that, and then we'll
Okay,
move
thank
on
you very
to.
much. Number one, sir, on your first questions, that the responsibility for psychological safety is not only on leaders. Yes, it's not only on leaders, and that is why I did mention in the course of this lecture that in our respective areas of influence, what do we do? Though when we are talking about corporate culture, it boils down squarely on the courage of leaders, especially in the work environment. Because whether we like it or not, it is the examples that leaders follow, leaders establish and practice in the work environment that holds sway most times. It's not as if others will not do what has been documented as shared values. But if leaders do not walk the talk in any work environment, whatever may have been documented that is contrary to what to the leaders' courage, their conduct, their philosophy, their attitude and character, such an environment will not promote what is documented. It is what the leaders do that will hold sway, and most times that people will do. And such leader will not be able to sanction them, but that is what the leaders do. There will not be moral authority. for leadership to sanction what employees do.
Sorry,
because that is what they themselves practice in such an environment. There is inclusion and equity in diversity. It is leaders can make it to bear. What others can do is to ensure that when we operate in a team among ourselves as colleagues, among ourselves, we will also ensure that we practice that, we do that, that we don't exercise or practice any form of unfounded bias, superficial bias amongst ourselves. But if it has been established by leadership, anybody who is guilty of discrimination can be brought to book, can be punished. Because leaders have established that in that particular environment, discrimination is not allowed. Discrimination is against our culture. Then sanction can be implemented, sanction can be applied. But where it is practiced by leadership, even when you practice inclusion, it may go unnoticed. It may not be recognized. It may not be appreciated because in that environment, it is not in their culture. Maybe there's discrimination everywhere. And we have such environments in Nigeria, especially where Lebanese, where they hold sway, the Indians, where they hold sway. Discrimination is practiced up to the highest level. And there is little or nothing that you can do, except if you are the HR person, you will continue to preach and practice, at least for people, for contemporaries and peers, you know, team members, people working on projects and all that. But of course, the responsibility for psychological leadership, psychological safety is not only on leaders, it also includes employees, the followers. You know, when the father in the home front, when parents practice psychological safety, when children are away from home, they will also practice it among themselves. And your second question on volatility in the workplace, especially where psychological safety is not practiced. What we can do, the HR has a responsibility in such an environment to uphold the virtues of psychological safety. It is because we are the internal consultants in most organizations where we work. We are the internal consultants, and we bring about strategic partnership to that particular business. We have a duty to educate the leadership, not only on fundamentals of psychological safety, but the benefits, especially as it applies to talent engagement and retention. And if you are able to make them to appreciate the connection between psychological safety and talent retention, most likely they may listen to us and also buy the idea to establish and practice psychological safety in the workplace, which of course, it goes beyond the workplace. In our private lives, you know, domestic life, family life, wherever we are, it applies to all human interactions. Thank you very much, sir, Mr. Badiru.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. We'll call on Michael Elliott. Michael Elliott, do you please unmute and...
Good evening, sir.
Yes, good evening, sir.
Lecture well delivered. It's not a waste of time to be on this call. I really appreciate making the time to search on this topic, and I'm really blessed. And I thank you for all that, and the Lord continue to speak. For those of us in the private public sector, this topic of yours is a great challenge to us, because sometimes where you find yourself in an environment where ethnicity, politics is being played, how do you, as a young individual in such an organization, to strive to manage this topic to deliver this evening in order to strive and to be at your best? Sometimes, if I use the word micromanage, is understatement. You are super micromanage. And sometimes when you come up with a superior idea or something maybe you have an idea about it, you've seen it before. For some of us who keep learning, I'm in a forum like this, I listen to professionals and I said, oh, why not let's do it this way? Sometimes the question is, wait for your time. How do we manage in such a situation? We cannot say there is no other way we can work, but some of us just feel if those of us who are smart, who are good, keep leaving this public sector work, who will then do it and make it right? So what do we do in this situation, sir, so that psychologically we will not be affected, and sometimes you just see the right thing, you just look the other way, sir? Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you very much. This is a very beautiful question. How does psychological safety get implemented, established, and practiced in the public service, given the qualities of public service in the Nigeria of today? Beautiful question. Yes, first of all, those of us who are professionals on this call in the public service, there is a leeway now for us to become true professionals in our official lives. And what is the leeway? At national level, at state level, across the country, professionalism is now being recognized, unlike before. In fact, it is just recently, as we speak now, it is just recently that professionalization of human resource management, professionalization of administration has just been given its due recognition by the federal government. And a communique was issued from the office of the secretary to the government of the federation, head of service, from the office of the head of service to the government of the federation. And all other state governments are following suit. Some of them have also issued that communique also. Professionalizing administration, and HR being recognized as one of the routes for professionalism for people in public service. What is the implication for this? The implication for this is that it is no longer business as usual. And I'll tell you the reason. Because you cannot become a professional. I'm not talking about the quacks. The professional bodies that were established by law, like CIPM, like HR. You cannot become one of us until you have sworn to uphold the provisions of our code of conduct. And if you are caught doing anything contrary to our code of conduct, you will not only be sanctioned, but you will also be brought to book. And it may including national publication and deregistering you, removing your name from the register of HR professionals in the country. This is a serious matter. And I can give you a hint. If you like, see it as privileged information. This is where CIPM is going. In the next few months or thereabout, you will experience some developments in CIPM. There is a new code of conduct that is coming down that has just been approved by the council, by the CIPM Governing Council. So even when you're in the public service, there is no exception. You cannot indulge or be found to have carried out an action, an activity, a practice that is contrary to the code of conduct of your profession. Being in the public service will not be an excuse. You might be sanctioned. your certificate, your license to practice might be withdrawn. That is number one. Number two, the president of the country, the ministers, the commissioners, the governors, having recognized and even recommending that officers in the public service who want to move from grade level 12 to 13 should professionalize. The implication in practice is that those class of people are expected to begin to view issues differently and work differently because it is no longer as usual. Because if you do not conduct yourselves, if you do not carry yourselves as professionals, then professionalization will not have a meaning. The professional certificate that you carry will not have a meaning until you are able to bring about a change. Of course, we understand that it could take some time before that change will be brought about, but it's the virtues of integrity, the virtues of transparent honesty as required by our code of conduct as professionals. You may not join them. And I personally have experience in that area. You may not stop them, but you have a duty not to join them when something that is contrary to the code of conduct of your profession is being practiced. You may not be able to stop them, but over time, when you people are many, it is no longer an individual. It is, you can imagine the admin officers we have in the service, the public service. So collectively, they can bring about a change in the long run. We don't have to leave service, but in the long run, if all the admin officers come together, and we are many, take Okemoso for example. The admin officers in Okemoso, they're in their hundreds. Are we saying all of them collectively together as a people, as professionals, cannot bring about a change? Nah, they can and they will if they are truly committed to promoting the virtues and the ethics of their profession. That's all I have to say. But in addition to that, in our personal lives, in our family lives, in our social clubs, in our homes, we can practice psychological safety. Some parents do not give their children the room to be themselves. I know some people, some parents are not, their children are not free with them. And instead, when the children are faced with critical issues in their life, they go and confide in their friends who perhaps is a drug addict or a smoker. And it is whatever advice that one gives your son or your daughter that you will take because your son is not there. I will kill you. Some parents are going to say, I will kill you. If you fail, I will kill you. Recently, about a year ago, it was reported that one young man committed suicide. And the suicide note was that he cannot go home with a failed result because his mother has threatened to kill him. And he killed himself. You can imagine. In boarding school, some of our children are being initiated into cults, into smoking marijuana, drug addiction, but they cannot tell their parents when they get home, even when they are bullied, because they are not free. Some parents intimidated their children so much that their children are no longer free. They only say what the father wants to hear. They say what the mother wants to hear. Can you imagine that some daughters at the age of 13 were being raped and they could not tell their mothers? Can you imagine that? That somebody was raped and she's not free because she's not free with such a mother. Psychological safety was completely absent. So apart from our official lives, let us also bring it to bear on our private individual lives. And we will see a change that we so much desire. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Chinedu Franklin. Let's make this quick. Our time is hard gone.
Yeah.
Chinedu
Good
Franklin.
evening.
Yes,
Good evening, everyone.
good evening.
I must say that I'm very privileged to be part of this section this night. And to the speaker, I must say a very big thank you for such an awesome delivery on psychological safety. I'm a strong believer that this psychological safety is one of the stuff that improve employee or staff retentionship or staff retention. My question is this, especially as regards in a private sector where as a HR, the decision for promotions for reward doesn't solely lie on you. That decision, you don't really have that sole responsibility to promote, to increase salary, or to reward a staff that has been productive, effective, and efficient. And that is bringing, that psychological safety is no longer there. The person doesn't feel valued. The person doesn't feel to be part of this system anymore. So my question is this: as a HR working with such organization, what strategy or what idea will you recommend that person to use in order to manage those staffs that feel unhappy, that they are productive but they are not being promoted, those that are not really productive are being promoted, are being rewarded at the end of the day? How do we, as a HR, where the decision doesn't solely lie on us to do, how do we really manage such situation in this regard? That's really my question this night. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, my brother, for that beautiful question. Again, this is a simple question. It's not too difficult. Before I became a consultant, I was in FMCG manufacturing for about 20 years. And you know, one of the sectors that is very, very difficult to operate, even as HR, is manufacturing. I mean, it was even a multinational, for that matter. Well, where psychological safety is not practiced or bought into by leadership, talents are disgruntled, they are demoralized, they are not motivated. People who merited promotion are not being promoted. Well, there are things that HR can do, 1, 2, 3 steps or techniques that HR can do. Number one, I do not know the level of that HR. Before I left Coca-Cola, I rose to directorate level, assistant director. Before I left, that I want to go into consulting, you know. So I do not know your level. If you are HR, if you have risen to senior management level, assistant director, unless you are not good. If you are good, you can influence management decision, which I was able to do when I was with CCHBC. Up to headquarters level, I was able. In fact, sometimes they would have taken a decision at headquarters. I was the regional manager in the north for the entire northern operations, overseeing HR operations in 5 manufacturing plants, all over the north. And I was able. Sometimes they would have taken a decision. So, as HR person, I do not know the level of that HR, whether it's a low-level manager in HR, whether just an officer, whether it's a middle-level manager, but whatever it is, if the HR officer or manager in question operates maybe in a branch or a location, then he should see himself as as a strategic partner for that particular business, and has been responsible first and foremost for all the talents in that particular location, in that particular business, including whether the MD or the branch manager or the plant manager, they are all your staff, they are all your talents. You are responsible to all of them, from the managing director to the cleaner, to the messenger, to the gatesman. They are your customer. As the HR, you are responsible to all of them. And number one, if you have been responsible to the managing director, if you have been responsible for its performance objectives. And when I say responsible, it is your duty in your location as HR to ensure that even the MD has a signed off performance of the objectives document. That is what I used to do. When I was work, of course, my colleagues were regional directors. I usually ensure that all the regional directors, the regional director for operations, for logistics, for commercial, for sales and marketing, it is my responsibility. In fact, their individual development projects is one of my KPIs. So there is no way you will not be able to influence them to ensure that people in their teams who are truly contributing to the bottom lines are recognized and appreciated. In fact, I remember when we introduced the model, HRBB model, 6 years in Coca-Cola. I was one of those who implemented it. When we considered some HR activities to line management, to HODs, we train them and we let them know that the talent in your team, they are your baby. We will support you to manage them. You hear about the recruitment managers. The HOD is the recruitment manager. We only support them. He is the one who will deliver the letter of appointment to the new member of his team. And if there is anything going to happen, it is the HOD, that not the HR, because we seeded some HR functions to line management, and we let them see that the talent in their teams is their baby, so that they will not cause problems in their team and now ask HR to come and solve problems. And we let them know, if you cause any problems in your team, you will first of all answer query before HR will not answer its own. That is number one. And if you are, we talk about HR analytics, data analytics. Today, it is mandatory for all HR professionals. If you're an HR practitioner, you are not well grounded in data analytics. Maybe you are still practicing, you are still living in the past. And it's a practice whereby you should be able to gather data about the talent in a particular team or project and show the business where a particular talent made meaningful contributions, recognized, rewarded, and the impact of such recognition and reward to the business, as compared to Team B, who did not recognize the talent in his team or that particular project. He did not recognize the talent. He did not recognize their contributions. Such talents were not rewarded, and the business lost such talent. You bring the two data on the two scenarios and show them to the business. And you let them know that this is the trend. If you continue like this, in 6 months, in 1 year, we are likely to lose A, B, C, D talents. And if we do, there is no way we will meet our targets. We will not meet the bottom line will suffer. And if we don't meet our talents at global level, there is no way we will be able to pay some allowances or to pay whether 32 months or maybe some people call it profit sharing. When you have to project as a HR professional, you must be able to predict the future, even business results of yesterday. Because business results of yesterday will justify where we are today and allow us to predict what will happen in the future. If you are able to do that continuously, there is no way they will not listen to you as a HR practitioner. And there is no way your recommendations will not be accepted, at least up to 50–60%. That in fact, sometimes you will even be able to change some decisions that has been made because you present data to them. Data that cannot be faulted. Data that can be proven. You have your records, you have your facts. If you do that, you will be able to recognize the talents in your team, in your business, those who are making contributions. And there are so many ways to recognize and reward talents. One of them, first of all, is to appreciate, recognize their contribution before any physical monetary reward. Recognize that. In fact, sometimes a pat on the back goes a long way in encouraging and motivating talents. No matter a contribution, no matter how little, it forms a part of the global picture of the business, including the cleaners, the security. If you remove their services, you will see what will happen. So when you're able to do that as HR practitioner, most times, which is what I personally have done, I have brought in an outsourcing agency who could not pay his staff salary against our policy, Papa. Against our policy. I made our headquarters to pay the salary of the outsourcing agency because I showed them the consequences. This man obviously is unable. I was able to prove that this man is unable to pay his staff salary before the salary was due. I remember very well in Abuja. 7 months, the salary is going to be due 7 months. This is a factory. If you not pay these people, this is what will happen. And if you predict and it happens, the business will not hold you responsible as HR. They say, you don't tell, he told us so. He told us so. Now we did not listen. In fact, you will be exonerated immediately. And next time when you talk, they will listen to you as they are listening to Bible. They will listen to you as if they are listening to their prophets. But what we have seen that most HR practitioners are just professionals by mouth. We have to upskill and continue to upskill and reskill ourselves and move with the dynamism of our profession so that anywhere where we find ourselves, our work will speak for us as HR professionals. And today, we have moved beyond just being HR professionals. We have become strategic business partners that cannot just be wished away. They do so at their own peril, unless you are not worth your onions as HR practitioner. There are so many ways. Even when there are no money, there are other ways you can motivate people in your team. You can work with line management to recognize and motivate the talents in their team, such that such talent can be recognized, rewarded, and retained. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay. Our time is far gone. We'll take Divine Ayalaja. Divine.
Good evening, everyone.
Yeah.
Good evening, sir. Good evening. Yes, sir.
My baby.
Good
You
evening,
came.
sir. Yes, sir. Sir, first of all, I would like to thank you for the insightful lecture. Yes, sir, insightful lecture delivery. I appreciate being part of today's session.
Thank you.
Yes. So my first question is relating to HR strategy and advocacy, because you mentioned the influence of management decisions within the organizational context. Yes. So the first question is, as an HR manager, what strategic approaches can we employ to advocate for management decisions that enhance the cultivation of a psychologically safe and inclusive workplace environment? I'm going to repeat it. As an HR manager, what strategic approaches can we employ to advocate for management decisions that enhance the cultivation of a psychologically safe and inclusive workplace environment? The second question, I only have 2 questions, so this is the second one. For organizational balance, my question is based on organizational balance. How does an organization harmonize the imperative of achieving operational excellence with the strategic cultivation of a psychologically safe and inclusive workplace culture? How does an organization harmonize the imperative of achieving operational excellence with the strategic cultivation of a psychologically safe and inclusive workplace culture? That's my question, sir.
Thank you very much for. Yes. I hope I can go ahead to respond.
Yes, sir.
Yes, thank you for your questions. Well, I see the 2 questions for me is like 2 in 1.
Yes, please do. Please go ahead, sir.
Even the imprint of strategy is techniques, impurities and operational approach to issues in any corporate environment. So I will just treat it as strategy. Well, the strategies that we can employ and deploy, especially as HR practitioners in any work environment, to bring about psychological safety are not really many. And the first thing we need to recognize, if as HR practitioners we truly know what strategy entails, is that in HR, we don't even talk of strategy at function level if you do not appreciate and understand what the global strategy of your business is talking about, the direction that strategy is going, the values your direct strategy is set to bring about. You must first of all understand the global strategy of your business before you talk about strategy as a function in nature. And all functional strategies must fall in place, must queue under the global strategy of your business. And most times, organizations have their global strategy. And I'll give you one example or two examples. 7-Up Bottling Company Limited, the bottlers of 7-Up, Pepsi, Mountain Dew, and others in Nigeria, they had a global strategy for that business decades ago. And up to today, that strategy has not changed. Because when you have a global strategy, all other is like universal strategy. All other strategies become units under that global universal strategy. What is the strategy of 7-Up Bottling Company? The strategy of pricing without compromising safety, health, and environment, especially health. From decades ago, 7-Up Bottling Company adopted global strategy of pricing that is affordable, even to the least member of the society, without compromising safety standards in producing food for public consumption. That is the global strategy. That strategy was adopted, I think, in the 60s or 70s. I do not know about today. Demand and supply may have affected the pricing of those brands today, but that strategy has not changed. They have always sold a bottle of Pepsi a little bit below the price of Coke. And if you go to Coke, the Coke will tell you that their brands are premium brands. And that is why Eva remains a premium table water. These are global strategies. I will now tell you how it relates to HR. Do you know that because of the global strategy of pricing that 7-Up Bottling Company adopted in the late 60s, in the early 70s, it affected the components of the talent that is brought to the business. It affected the kind of compensation package that is designed and employed to compensate and motivate the talent in the business. All of them are fallout from that universal business strategy of pricing. I am privileged to have worked with 7-Up Bottling Company in the early 20s. And in that year, early 20s, before 2005, you will not believe that the total number of postgraduate degree holders in 7-Up bottling company across the country were less than 50 in thousands of employees because of the global strategy they have. Because that strategy was only able to bring into the business some set of employees with certain qualities. And that is why today, Coca-Cola pays more than 7-Up bottling company. Because the reason why I'm giving this illustration is that until you have well understood the nitty-gritty of the universal strategy of your business, you don't talk about functional strategy. If you talk about functional strategy, it will come to nothing. You only labor in vain. You must understand the universal strategy of the business and align. It is when you have understood the universal business strategy, you will now know which area of that strategy you can implement at functional level. Which area of that strategy can you influence? Is there any area of that strategy that you can change? Usually, techniques will fall out from strategy, because strategy is only a game plan. It is the technique, the policies, the procedures that will tell you how those strategies will be implemented in the day-to-day activities of the business. So the strategy as HR, first of all, you must understand the business universal strategy and align the functional strategy to that business strategy. And when you align, if you're able to align the functional strategy that you will bring about, as strategy number one, strategy of DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Does the business currently have a practice on DEI? Or do they have a policy around it? What is the component of the staff membership of that company? What are the levels of staff membership? How does a level of staff membership relate with others? Do the same contributions that seem equal, are they rewarded the same way and manner? If yes, excellent. That will be a strategy that will promote psychological safety. Then if not, why? Then what can you do to ensure that the same job roles that look the same, requiring the same educational qualification, the same professional qualification, almost the same. Can we reward them the same way? Two individuals doing the same job. Why are you rewarding them differently? The same qualification, the same number you have experience, the same professional qualification, but they are rewarded differently. And the difference in the reward is so much. That is lack of DEI. Most people don't know. It's contrary to the provisions of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Why do you bring into the business somebody that falls short of the basic requirements? These are the questions that you will ask. Because these are areas that can promote psychological safety. And these are areas you have to look into in designing strategy to promote psychological safety in that particular work environment. Strategy on safety. And when we talk about safety, it's not only physical safety, psychological safety. What is your policy in that particular business? Do you have a policy on learning and development? Because it is your strategy on learning and development, out of which policies will be designed, that you will be able to promote and establish the practice of psychological safety. Do you have a policy on L&D? Do you have a policy on performance management? It is your policy on performance management that will address the practice of mistakes, errors, and failure being seen as a learning curve. Do you have strategy around that, around performance management? As a function, what you only need one strategy. You don't need plenty strategy. You only need one strategy at functional level. So from that functional strategy, you now have policies, procedures, and practices that will break down your functional strategy and make it implementable day in, day out, year in, year out. You only need one functional strategy. Functional strategy that will speak to DEI. Functional strategy that will speak to performance management. Functional strategy that will speak to learning and development. Functional strategy that will speak to total reward and compensation. How do you compensate? How do you recognize your contributions? Employee talent contribution, how do you compensate same? Then, depending on the environment where the business operates, R&D, research and development, your functional strategy may also provide, or make it imperative to have a policy around R&D, research and development. That policy will speak to the fourth leg of psychological safety, which is being safe to challenge the status quo. Because some organizations, they will rather bring in consultants from outside and pay them millions of naira to have innovation, research and development, rather than allow any member of their staff, including directors, to challenge the status quo. And the reason is that they will tell you they are protecting their business secrets. They don't want anybody to make a contribution in that area. They don't want any insider to go into research and development. They would rather contract it out, knowing that consultants signed oaths of secrecy. We do in our firm here. If you are going to, you have a research brief in any organization or OD brief, the first thing you do before you go to work is to sign oaths of secrecy, which may not be possible for in-house employees. So these are the areas that you really need to look at if you are looking at designing strategies to be able to promote psychological safety in that particular work environment. Thank you very much.
Okay, wow. All of us are glued to this call tonight. We have short our time. I think we have spent additional 44 minutes, and it doesn't look like we should go home, but we have to go. We have to be disciplined with our commitment to the time we have scheduled for this program. Thank you very much, our esteemed fellow, Mr. Muslihu Afisi, the Chief Operating Officer of Sage Hot Consulting Limited. Please, you've seen him in action. For any of us that want to engage in service, please, sir, you can just drop your phone number in the chat room.
Okay, sir.
And
okay, sir.
I think you can also drop your LinkedIn handle.
Okay, sir.
You can drop your LinkedIn handle. You can drop your phone number so that those that want to engage your service can contact you directly.
Okay.
So this is where we draw the curtains tonight for all our esteemed colleagues on the call. Mrs. Olufunke Lunge, thank you very much. You will pardon me. I owe you a call. I'll call you tomorrow. Please, I'm sure you've been seeing my hands here and there, I'm everywhere. I need more staff, even though I have some. God will help all of us. Mr. Muhammad Lawan Fage, thank you for joining us this evening. Just looking at the call, prayer, thank you. Where are our people? Okay, John Suru, thank you. I can't just call everybody out tonight, but I'm sure we will continue our conversation on our WhatsApp group. So till we meet again next week Sunday, we have another guest. we're going to be having our esteemed, I've already scheduled, speakers till the ending of August. We're going to have the chairman of Apapa chapter joining us, an esteemed professional who will be joining us, I think next week or per week. Then there is another lawyer who will also be joining us, taking a session in this meeting. Okay, so we want to appreciate you, sir, Mr. Muslihu Afisi. Thank you very much for this highly refreshing and highly engaging session you've had with us this evening. We can't thank you enough. So for the rest of us, God bless you, sir. For the rest of us, please remember your prayers on Wednesday between 5 and 6. And for the regular participants of this meeting, we will meet 7 p.m. Next week, Sunday. Till then, please take care of yourself and have a blessed week. Bye for now.